Hey everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of Dwayne Spin Stop. I have a very special guest today. Chua is here.
Hi,
and I'm finally on the right side of the because the host is always on your right, and with the Hansel episode I was on the wrong side. Anyhow, today is going to be really exciting because I really am quite passionate about speaking about the environment, and I think Inch is too. So this is going to be a great episode, and Inch has several projects coming up. She has an album coming up.
That's right.
And she also has a music video that's coming up from that album that she's working on. So all very exciting things. Also, she, unbeknownst to many people, you have started a company of sorts, or you've manufactured something called Agape, a solution, right, under the brand Agape Nature.
Yeah. It's founded by my business partner, Ocean Yang, and then I came on board to just work with her on this. It's been an amazing journey. I mean, to me, sustainability is extremely important. The environment, and more importantly, how that protecting ourselves is very important. And there's quite a bad pesticide problem with a lot of our food and produce. So I do believe it's extremely important to actually clean your vegetables before you ingest them in any shape or form.
Yeah.
So it is a all natural organic multi-purpose cleaner, and I think it's such a great way to sort of talk about sustainability, because you're talking about a product that you would need in every household.
Absolutely. We will talk about that more, and also a bit about her experience on Masterchef, which is still running. So all these details coming up. You can also look at the timestamp in the video description in case the episode is too long. You can forward it to different segments, but please stay with us if you can. And we always start off with a little question to the universe.
Okay.
So I've got two decks here, and you can choose one of them to sort of just tell your fortune. You can take it or leave it. It's just for fun. It's just for us to get to know you as well.
Okay.
So which deck would you prefer? The Mermaid Dolphins deck or animals?
Powerful animal oracle cards.
I suspected you would go with animals. These are animal traits, and they are supposedly real traits of these animals, so they might teach us something. Okay, so while you think of your question, you have to ask it a question. I will quickly plug clothes. Thank you very much again to the people at Yishu. They have sponsored clothes so far for this episode. The vest is from Yishu, and the pants. This vest is lovely. It's their only vest, and apparently people don't like vests very much, but I picked it out, and I thought, yeah, it's so apt for the episode too, because it's got a bit of like floral.
It's a really nice green.
Thank you.
Very nice green.
And if you want to celebrate Asianness, Yishu is one of the brands to go to. All right, do you have a question now?
Yeah, I do. When will things be better?
When will things be better? For you or for the world?
For
or
the
just
world.
For the world. Oh, very generous question. Okay, here we go. Let's have the animals tell us. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, so do you want to pick the...
I'll pick.
You pick the one under. Okay, here we go. All right, flip it around and let's see, when will the world be better? That's quite specific.
It said
What animal did you get?
opossum.
Opossum.
And it says have a backup plan.
Oh, do we have a backup world though? Okay, let's see. Let's try it. Right, let's just see if we have a backup plan. I don't know, maybe the backup plan is to change what we're doing right now, like not, change the plan, right?
Yeah, so apparently an opossum is known for strategy. So it's not a bad time to be strategizing.
I think that's quite an appropriate answer. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly read through this. Don't get attached to one and only plan, and always have a plan B, or at least a few other approaches to the subject of your inquiry. Too often you'll find yourself stuck with an agenda about how things should be or how you should act in a given situation. In our bubbles we do that, whether or not the plan you're acting on is one that will work. And one definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So this time, try something new on your first approach. And if your first approach... So this time, try something new if your first approach doesn't work. Instead of turning left, turn right. Listen closely to your inner promptings here. You'll find clues as to what to do all around you and inside you if you just pay attention. It may not be obvious at first, but opening your eyes, ears, and senses, you'll find some delightfully ingenious ways of approaching this situation so that the outcome will be in your favor and in alignment with the universe. Okay, so additional association, grasping, agility, maternal instinct, and stability. Wow, this is so relevant to...
I feel like it's so relevant to what we're going to talk about today.
It is very relevant, and I always like to do this, like look at the other cards to see that if, this is really like a specific answer. Yeah, not all of them. Boundaries, joy, serenity, wow. Not all of it can apply.
This deck
Freedom.
Is fun.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I like to do. Cool, so we have an answer. So
there we go. We need a strategy.
We need a strategy, and that's what we'll talk about. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the book that you posted on your Instagram and that you recommended almost to me, called Eating Chilli Crab in the Anthropocene. How do you pronounce this? Anthropocene?
Anthropocene, yeah.
Right. It is a fabulous book written locally, published by Epigram, and it's edited by Matthew Schneider Meyerson. Do you know the guy?
I've met him once because we were on a eco panel before.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right, and it talks about.
But we met in person. It was like on a Zoom call or something like that.
Right. Yeah, and it talks about Singapore, especially, and the environment in terms of how I feel like in Singapore we are very, very much more so in our bubbles in a sense that we don't realize the dangers of what's going on because we're so comfortable. We don't see too much poverty as we do in other countries, and the landscape is so green and beautiful, and but there are darker things about Singapore, or rather things that we should be aware of, like how oil is still being used as a way to forward economic growth. And that's something I want to talk about as well, like the idea that economic growth is not sustainable. We can't just keep, we have to manage expectations, right?
I mean, I would always wonder about this. I do feel like there's a difference of being productive and then an addiction to productivity. Because I do feel sometimes we're busy for the sake of being busy. We're growing for the sake of growing. It's not very intentional, mindful growth.
Right, exactly. It's what the cards say. They're saying like you're just doing it because it's familiar,
it's
right?
It's familiar, and I think that's something that, like, to me, there is a comfort in that as well. Because there is some. If your life has always been rather erratic in a variety of ways, and productivity seems to be the most sort of the constant for you, you hold on to that for some reason. So I guess I always understood why some people get very offended when green advocates basically come to you. I mean, when green people come to you and tell you, they're essentially telling you the way you're doing life is not okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay. Please change it on behalf of the rest of mankind, which is an insane idea for a lot of people, because you're essentially also telling them, please change exactly the way you live for the sake of a reward that is invisible and intangible to you, and you will reap no rewards whatsoever from it. Only the generations after you will reap it.
Right.
Which seems absurd for most people too, and understandably so to extent,
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's like, why are you minding my business? I don't mind yours. But I think part of it is education and awareness. I mean, when you do see the urgency of having to save the environment, then I think a lot of things will change, perspectives will change. So I think part of it is to, if you're wondering why, to educate yourself, right? And you can read a book like this. I mean, it talks about, what else did it talk about? Talk about how land reclamation, or what we do with sand.
So dredging, how that affects our Southeast Asian regions, and how Singapore, I guess, is quite in the center of a lot of it. Yeah. Yep.
With the indigenous people as well. I mean, when stuff is taken out of the coastline, then it affects the habitat, the natural habitat around, right? And then it destroys another habitat because we're building sand onto another coastline after removing. So it's two different locales.
And it affects the humans outside of this book as well. It affects the humans and the environment in that area as well.
Yeah.
Especially because okay, we can talk more about it a little bit. Now, do you want to keep going?
Sure, we can talk about it. I mean, there are several things I want to talk about in the book, so we can start here.
Yeah, I mean, what I love about this book is that it is a real good jumping off point for a lot of issues that somehow Singapore has quite uniquely been the center of a lot of it. Somehow connected to a lot of these Southeast Asian or pretty big issues that are happening around the world. And I think it doesn't take a lot of us for either to actually understand that we are more than ever during a time of COVID how connected the world is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The connectedness of how one virus can have such a great impact to the world, and what happens when one airport shuts down and the whole world, we're just extremely scarily connected more than we think we are.
Yeah.
And I think that and that goes to the good things as much as it goes to the problems that we have. And in this book, I think what makes it fun is that they draw a lot of very interesting anecdotes. Like for example, when they talk about oil, the orang minyak, which is a very old traditional sort of go. So I think, and in its literature merit, I think it's a really good jumping off point. And yet the topics that they talk about can link into, if you're interested enough, you can go research a little bit more about intrigued about what's going on, and you can actually see how deep each of these subjects, the rabbit hole, actually goes.
Yeah,
like sand dredging for an example. It's funny because the laws overseas, in general, Singapore deals with a lot of various countries that sell sand to us.
Right.
And on paper, all the entire procedure has been legal because we bought sand.
Right.
It's a very transactional relationship. But internally, for a lot of these countries, they are regulated a very different way. There is no real autonomy on these sands and lands. Wow. And then, in fact, NGOs who then fight for it would say, okay, this land is actually protected, this whole coast is actually protected. But then you speak to people who are in that village, and they're the ones who are illegally dredging the sand because they're paid to do it. Right. And they would much rather, instead of being a farmer, a conglomerate coming to them and going please dredge your own swampland, and then we'll pay you X amount of dollars, which is an obscene amount of money to a lot of these so-called farmers.
Right.
And eventually, what happens is they'll skirt around it and obviously not dredge in broad daylight and dredge underneath the swamps. Right. So everything looks extremely intact.
Right.
And okay. Until obviously at some point it gives way and the entire swamp collapses. Yeah. So
you can see how I was going to mention this later, but I think it's a good time to talk about this masterclass that I'm watching by Jane Goodall. She started out with learning about chimpanzees, and then she realized how them being affected by what we're doing to the world is a bigger problem. And so the three things she highlighted that were issues today are poverty, which is what's causing the sand dredging as well, because they need the money. So it's not about the environment anymore. So poverty is an issue that will help solve environmental issues. Also, the unsustainable lifestyle that we have because of the number of resources we have, that it's not sustainable anymore, and that's also due because to the third thing she said was overpopulation. I did look it up. It did say I don't know, I mean, nothing is too valid until you can prove it, but it did say population growth is actually starting to decline, which could be a good thing, but at the same time it's still staggering, because if you look at a chart, I mean, back in the day, I mean, basically we've shot exponentially up the growth, and it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, exactly.
And even with plastic bags, if you think about it, there are 5 million over Singaporeans, and if just even half, which is what's happening, 2.3 million plastic bags are used every day in Singapore. I want to say good work because half of you are not using plastic bags at the supermarket, but if you think about 2.3 million plastic bags, that's still...
Yeah, I think we actually use more than that.
More, right? Yeah. And that's just at supermarket, so there's no they didn't talk about the other
kind of stuff at all, and then even now the amount of takeout we take because we were ordering in during the time of COVID. Yeah. That's quite a lot. And I mean, when it comes to like, I love what Jane Goodall has mentioned before. Is if you look at the SDGs from the UN, like poverty is actually one of the top things, and including gender equality is also extremely important.
Right.
Because there's a very simple. I mean, it goes back to the population issue as well. Because a lot in poorer countries, uneducated women tend to have a lot of children.
Right.
And unnecessarily so, because of a lot of gender equality, they don't work. They're not allowed jobs, or that very stereotypical role of what a woman should be.
Right.
All the way to to rape or any other very unfortunate circumstance of women having like children.
Right.
Where we're not intently populating, we are just populating.
Right.
Once again for no reason.
Right. Wow.
So there is quite a huge amount of like things that are all related in that way, and I think the only way to approach as well when we look at it, because it's extremely important to talk about the problems like poverty is a problem, but I guess the only way to solve it is to look at the other side, the flip side of poverty, and it's power.
Right.
So how is power being used in this day and age? Because that deeply affects poverty.
Right. For sure. Wow. Yeah. So it's just so many layers to it. So another thing that I had was about that I read was about the aviation industry as well, and traveling and how we have this guilt, and they talk a little bit about how you try to offset this guilt by doing an offset package. You pay for like an offset package, but the book does warn that it doesn't negate the fact that there's still carbon emissions. I mean, you're just helping the earth in another way, but it doesn't stop the emissions. So
no, of course not. I guess if there are so many ways people are trying to make the world a better place, and I guess there is no hard, fast, wrong or right. I mean, there is good intent, but then does good intent always yield the best results? Not necessarily.
Right.
So I guess there are some good reasons for offsetting. So for an example, the fact that we exist as human beings, we're already taking out carbon.
Yeah.
Unless we walk around guilty and unproductive, that would not be serving the world, Yeah. So I feel like I wake up every day, I'm gonna eat the world of its resources, take electricity like any other human being. So these are I can always try to reduce, but I will never be able to eradicate my existence.
Right.
And I don't recommend that, of course, for anybody to do that. So what we do is you calculate how much you are consuming, or that mindfulness of how much you're consuming.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to offset that. And and I believe your resources or your value, money isn't the only value. If you feel that you want to offset your stuff, you can maybe do beach cleanups. So basically offset what you already have to do with something out in the world.
Yeah.
And alternatively, if it's more comfortable for you to give money, yes, offset that. And then there are so many carbon offset calculations out there that can help you if that's the kind of metric that you want to use. No hard and fast rule.
Right.
Like it would just be something that you would want to do.
Yeah.
However, if you are also a sort of person that just goes like, oh, I'm just going to do it anyway, so because I can offset it later. Then you might be doing something good, but then again it goes back to the intention of why you're doing it.
Exactly.
And that feeds into so many other things.
Yeah.
So to me, it's sometimes not necessarily good intentions are nice, but how effective it is your good intention.
For sure.
And then like for example, greenwashing.
Right. Yeah.
So many companies now, partly because it's been mandated after the Paris Agreement that every country needs to pay attention for the environment, and now it's amazing because such work has caused boardroom meetings to now take sustainability in there. Previously, so many conglomerates and corporations would laugh when someone just talks about sustainability.
Right.
And they wouldn't even bring it. It would never even show up in a boardroom meeting,
Right.
But then now it's mandatory for this to be discussed. Even if some of it is at face value, the fact that there's a seat at a table for sustainability for most of these commercial companies, it is a start.
Yep.
And what's exciting as well is that now a lot of companies are now trying to integrate it. I wish there was some kind of award system or some kind of recognition for companies who have been doing it before it was even trendy.
Yeah.
Because I think there needs to be that distinction.
Yeah.
But no, now every company is now marketing and peddling something green. it's built on great intentions of trying to reimagine what they do and rejig what they've been doing. However, the downside of that is your good intentions of trying to be green is now giving the idea of people that all your products is green, that you are in a company that you might be only implementing 5% of sustainable efforts, but then suddenly you are now seen as completely okay, and what you're doing is still encouraging people to give consumer dollar.
Yeah, right. Which is essentially what greenwashing is. You're just hiding the, you're making it look very eco-friendly, but there are facts that are hidden.
And the impulse is still to get people to spend and consume when the first rule of sustainability is to reduce whatever we're doing.
Yeah. There was an exciting part, speaking of greenwashing, they talked about the otters here and how they've become such a symbol of Singapore. It is almost greenwashing to me a little bit as well. I'm like, look, they survived at one point they were extinct, and because we've developed our country to be so green, and they've come back and they're back, and we're doing the right thing. But then there are a lot of other species that are, for example, the crabs they also talk about here, which is the title of the book, and how you're saying this culture, can really be an influence, because crabs used to be just you just eat the crab, the bread, but now there's like crabs in burgers and in spaghetti and pasta, in you have so people just, it's a fad, right? But they don't think about like the consequences of that. And even something really interesting to me was how there are these people trying to save the crabs, and they bought them and then released them into the wrong waters, which killed all of them, right? So I think education is just was there anything else you want to say? And even there's a chapter about the minor birds, about how they are
it's one of the most common birds in Singapore.
Yeah, how they're seen as pests, right? Or even monkeys, and there's a whole thing, do you feed animals?
There are a lot of native animals in our Southeast Asia region that we consider as pests. For an example, the lesser greater mouse deer, which is our native mouse deer, has been quite endangered in our mainlands for a long time. And this is even before urbanization would happen. The mouse deers were perceived as pests. Because they would obviously are smart and cunning enough to go into the fields of agriculture and be able to steal some produce, and stuff like that. But over the years, they've been sort of dwindled away as well. And I mean, to me, I'm not a zoologist by any means, but I do feel the whole landscape of zoology has greatly changed, just by how globalization and the migration of humans has happened. It has definitely affected how a lot of animals' habits have been. Urbanization has definitely
so they're just adapting, right?
They're just adapting. Crows, miners, pigeons, they're all just adapting to urbanization. And I think what's scary to me about in context of animals is humans' ownership to everything, including the animals' lives. If we don't like so many crows, we'll just shoot them. Or even the basic fact is I own this car park, no crow should be here, and the crows are hanging out on a tree that was probably there 100 years before us. So but yet we have this very warped sense of ownership of everything around us. Oh, wait a second, this monkey can't come in my house. It is my house next to MacRitchie Reservoir. And you're whoa, hold up, this monkey's ancestors have been in MacRitchie forever. You can't expect them to not want to hang out at your house when you have food on the table all the time. So there's a very warped sense of entitlement and ownership that we have.
Even this parallels to just looking at foreign talent coming in. This is a bit of a side topic, but related to the environment, because I feel because we are an aging population, and we technically, to save the environment, we don't want to produce too many babies, right? So if you want to still have economic growth, we should welcome foreign talent, and space is space. Yes, there's national identity, there's pride, but at the same time, there's also overprotectiveness of this is my land, why are the foreigners coming in? With any country, people do that, in the same way with animals, if you look at it, people are just adapting.
So I feel I do actually think that all of this is interrelated. It's the concept of the other, right? Same for that's why xenophobia happens. That's why we feel towards animals or maybe to other people, and it's because we somehow there is a very subconscious understanding of scarcity.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, it's very strange, right? Like, we live our life infinitely, like as if we have
like resources.
But yet we are reminded of our finiteness when others come along.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little strange thing to me, because I wish like we were a little bit more aware about this finiteness in the first place. And I think that it's okay to recognize on that, and if you were confident that you were sustainable, you would be a lot easier to share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I feel like it's very subconscious that people feel like no. Everything's gonna end and it's limited, you know, and I don't want this, like there's not enough jobs for me, there's not enough for this. And then a lot of that fear and unhappiness kinda kicks in, and a lot of that fuels a lot of the decisions,
Yeah, for sure. Wow, great thoughts so far, Inge. Like I think, thank you for coming on again.
No, I'm super happy
I think
too.
it's always important. I always feel like one quality on being able to help the environment is empathy, open up, and you're so empathetic. And even Jane Goodall says that, like she says, science doesn't believe in empathy, but she says when you study the environment and how things work, you need an element of that. And I found that just really such a powerful statement.
Absolutely. It's funny because like, in general, I agree a lot, but I actually have an extra layer to it on that philosophy, where I think you need to be equally passionate as you are dispassionate when you're dealing with things.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the recipe that I like to live up in life. Yeah, and in fact, it's not even a balance. I wouldn't even say it's a balance, but rather it's you're living in between tensions.
Okay.
You know,
right,
where you're really just in the middle, holding a line, instead of trying to balance something.
Right.
Because it takes a lot of discipline to live within the tension of both those two things. Yeah. A lot of focus, because most of the time I feel like I'm just chillaxing, you know.
Right.
But you know, I think things that really yield results and like epiphanies and enlightenment is really that tension. Yeah.
Right. Great. All right, so yes, this whole conversation, we might have another chance for you to join it. We might start up, there's a Telegram group, you can find it in the video description below. Dwayne's Bit Stop. Anytime we have like a topic we want to discuss, or if a guest wants to talk about something in further detail, we can set up an appointment and then do that. We might try something else later towards the end of this episode, maybe between, some of the followings that we have in a Clubhouse, to see if somebody comes up and is able to join us live. But let's wrap up this, and let's move on now to a little bit more about yourself. And so the show starts with health, technology, entertainment. Sometimes they're so intertwined, but now we're moving on to technology. So something that you, I guess, sort of devised, right, or with your partner, Agape Nature. Quickly, you can find out a little bit more about Agape Nature also, I think, at Design Orchard.
Yes, you can. We are now stocked at Design Orchard.
Yeah, and if you're wondering what that is it's a two-story building?
It is a two-story building. If you count the rooftop, it might be 3.
Yeah. Right. I don't even know where it is. I'm embarrassed to say. Is it like?
It's right in between where the Heron is.
Okay.
Right across the street from 313.
Okay.
Right next to Midpoint.
Orchard, right.
I think it's just on the Orchard Strip.
Right, and that's like a permanent structure that's going to showcase different things. So right now it's currently, it has a pop-up for
sustainability, greener futures. It's a sort of pop-up that celebrates all the local brands that are in Singapore that actually put sustainability at their focus. So you have Muyu, which is one of the woodworking companies. They make amazing, gorgeous handbags made out of like recycled scrap woods from a variety of carpenters. So there's all these tiny little woods that you don't need anymore. They turn into gorgeous looking handbags. I think Sunday has is a bed sheet that uses organic cotton, trade free, and all that stuff. And then there's us, Agape Nature, which is an organic clean, multi-purpose cleaner along with like laundry powder. So we generally create organic products.
Right, and is it available there? Can you buy it?
It is available there.
Great!
You can totally buy some of it over there.
29th of April, and if that's done, you can still buy it, and we'll put a link to your website.
That's right. Head on down to our website, and you can just order it directly from us too.
Yeah. and if you want to find out more, there are also videos. I just saw the broccoli one. Yeah, there's 2 broccolis. One is washed with water, and another one is washed with the agape the solution. And the one washed with the solution from Agape Nature actually turned brighter green, which is actually the natural color
of a broccoli.
So that's what we're eating. The grayish tone that you get in comparison is possibly the pesticide,
I mean,
right?
Pesticides have a pretty dark history. Pesticides have been around since World War One and Two. In fact, most of the companies that were producing all those biochemical warfares, eventually after the war, they have no idea what to do with all those chemicals. They thought, let's just put it in our vegetables and it'd be pesticides. It's strange because a lot of the formula is still the same.
Yeah.
And in fact, the pesticides have grown to be 17,000 different kinds all around the world, and some of them, and majority of them, are oil-based. And not only just oil, just to safeguard for transportation, especially to humid countries such as Singapore, they put a layer of wax over it. And so there's quite a lot of nasty stuff now, and I don't blame them in any way, because over the course of the year, a lot of people were like, well, why are farmers trying to poison us? I'm like, farmers are not trying to poison you. If they could, they would have really wanted to obviously grow vegetables organically, hire more people in the fields, but pesticides have been a solution as we demand for vegetable produce to be cheaper. They don't have a choice but to survive in a variety of ways, and the only way to do that, because it takes a lot of manpower to do agriculture, and the only way to not be able to get pests to get around is to just douse it with as much pesticide so that it works. And the same thing goes for transportation. If you speak to anybody at transports, they would love to be able to transport things at a much
cost
effective area, but they can't. They would have to. They would have to put like wax over it and the fungicide on it, because we do live in Southeast Asia. So a lot of our dry foods, especially like medicinal herbs, all the way to like nuts, and they all have quite a layer of fungicide on it.
Gosh, wow. Was there anything else you would like to add that about the product?
So we only sell the concentrate. So, and it comes in a 1 liter and 4 liter bottle. So a lot of people end up buying a 4 liter bottle, but the whole idea is that we sell in the concentrate, because most of the time when you go into the supermarket as well, a lot of the stuff you're buying 70% water, where they diluted it on your behalf. And then there's a lot of plastic that eventually accumulates across the year, you buying different multitude of bottles. So we sell you the concentrate, mix it yourself. So at the end of the day, we want it to be extremely cost effective for you, and at the same time save the environment and reduce the amount of plastics. We also use high quality plastic, so it's recyclable, and its shelf life of recycling is as well high. Because a lot of people have this little assumption that like, oh yeah, I can always just recycle the plastic, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, there's a shelf life. I wanted to talk about that too. You can't just keep recycling. It's
unhealthy. You can get cancer from a plastic bottle because it's just like shedding itself on you, and you're just drinking that. So you should get high quality plastic that doesn't disintegrate, or the fact that it is freshly made. It will have a much bigger life expectancy when it recycled, and it also is compatible with your area. So for example, some countries don't have the facilities to recycle, so it's much cheaper to just dispose it and burn it than send it overseas to ship it, to recycle it. So there is also a variety of these things. Like you gotta always check with your country and your code, like where is the nearest recycling facility, what are the available options in your city.
Very good advice. Okay, so you can find out more as well on the website as the product develops. I don't know. I feel like there's also different reiterations of the product now, right? There's also for laundry.
We're eventually wanting to grow our product line, but I think so far we have our flagship product is Love Rescue 001. It's my favorite formula as well. And what I love the most about the whole thing is that like it is affordable. I totally want aunties and uncles and people to not get afraid when they see the word organic, because there's an assumption that organic's for rich people,
right?
And it's a luxury thing, and to me that's bullshit. Like I
that's
think
what happened to kale, right?
So it needs to be accessible to people, like why is it that we that people who are in poverty are subjected to use chemicals
Yeah.
You know, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I think I would want for anybody. So it was important for my partner and I to be able to make the product luxurious yet accessible.
Well done, Inch. Doing good for the world. Recyclable products are I mean, and speaking of the other recyclable products you were talking about, I just wanted to talk about my shoes. These are so comfortable. These are, and it's a reminder of my commitment to go green. It says, it's not easy being green, because being green is not necessarily is cheap. It's not necessarily convenient, right?
No.
That's the one thing.
It's effortful. It's everything inconvenient, essentially.
Yeah.
Convenience has been, in many ways, a culprit.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And then, so now we're moving on to your music, to talk about your music now.
Before we get our music, can I share one more story?
Of course.
So, it's a story that I talk about quite often when I talk about sustainability, and I talk about this story quite fondly because it reminds me all the time why I do what I do. So when I'm going to talk about the first time I've ever encountered or understood why it was important to be green.
Right.
And I was 10, and growing up as a kid, I was like a very chubby, often bullied child. So on Sundays was the day that I completely was excited about because my grandma would take me to go to McDonald's.
Right.
And back then, we're talking about this in the 90s here, so McDonald's in the 90s, and this CFC was a big issue because a lot of our refrigerators had it at that time. And another part is styrofoam also had a big part of CFC in it.
Oh yes, the burgers used to come in these like styrofoam boxes. Yeah.
And the chicken nuggets came in these yellow styrofoam boxes, right? So I would just totally felt that bullying is all worth it until Sunday when grandma takes me to eat chicken nuggets. So one day grandma couldn't take me to chicken nuggets, so my aunt decided to do that on her behalf.
Okay.
We got to McDonald's and she didn't tell me what to do, but she explained to me what styrofoam is, and she explained to me CFC, which is crazy because I was like 9, 8, and you're looking at like a person telling a child about a thing. So I was told this yellow box is made out of this very gas that is tearing a hole in our sky, and you can't see this hole in the sky, but you can feel it. And it's causing a lot of sun, and it's just making our air like hotter. So it almost feels like someone is lying to you to not eat chicken McNuggets. But then in my mind I was like, oh, what if it's true? And then she said, you have a choice. I'm gonna teach you this word, which is boycotting, which is you're not going to get your chicken nuggets. And then because if you get the chicken nuggets, you are encouraging this company from using this, and when you use this, it's gonna kill this guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, but why can't they just don't put it in that box? And it's like, yeah, that's what we all want, but they're not going to do it because this box is cheaper than doing it anything else. Then I was like, okay. So then came this. All the bullying all the week, how crappy I felt and how amazing chicken nuggets made me feel was on the balance with something invisible, which I will get no reward for whatsoever, except for the self-imagined satisfactory that like I'll be doing something good.
Yeah.
Like I'll be stopping a hole from getting bigger in the sky.
Right. Wow.
And every day, when I come to like when I make a decision on whether should I give up something that I want, like today I forgot to bring my straw and I'm gonna order bubble tea, and I'm like, okay, no bubble tea for me today, and I'll walk away from it. So it's this impulse that I have of just giving up something you really want for something that you will have nothing to gain out of.
Right.
But to me, unfortunately, over the years, if there's anything I realize, it takes practice.
Yeah.
You won't be able to ever do it unless you practice it enough.
Yeah. I think that's a very difficult thing for many Singaporeans to do because we are so privileged, and the idea of to do it is sort of almost ridiculous. Like, why should I? I should have myself.
There is zero reason for you to do it. Yeah.
Right. But there is a reason, and wow, what an amazing story, and it goes to show that someone that young can learn to respect the environment.
In fact, it's the other way around. Most of the time when I speak to kids or anyone about it, they're the ones like reprimanding their parents back home, and it's very heartbreaking when they learn and discover something to be true, and they go back and tell their parents about it, and their parents tell them, no, don't.
Yeah.
And that's very discouraging when you see a previous generation putting a new one down. And that makes me more mad is because like this is not your future anymore. You don't if you're talking about ownership, you have least ownership.
Exactly.
Like, compared to your children.
Yeah. So I keep mentioning her just because I'm watching the masterclass now. Jane Goodall does also say that attitudes are so hard to change. If anything, she's looking to not to dump it on them, but if anything, she's looking at the younger ones to start making.
Absolutely. It would always change. Hopefully it shifts the needle. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very unfair at the same time, but and maybe it's also good to recognize that, right? That we are to me it's like you're trying to inspire the younger generation, but we're also putting a lot of responsibility on them.
Of course.
And they're bearing a lot of the consequences that has got nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's something worth acknowledging,
Yeah, we can do more. I mean, in little ways. The other day, I was treating myself to a gold class sort of. I'm not trying to say like it could be any brand, I guess. But the blankets. As I was leaving, the guy was like, "Do you want to keep the blanket?" And I was like, "Why? Aren't you gonna reuse them and wash them?" And he said, "No, we throw everyone away." And I just.
What?
Yep. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but now I'm.
Is it because of COVID?
I don't think so. I don't know, but so now I'm thinking maybe I want to collect these blankets in some way, wash them and give them out to homeless people or reuse them. So I took it home, and they're pretty good blankets. I mean, you can use it as a throw on your couch, or it doesn't even have the big brand label. I guess they don't even associate with their names on it in the trash, but yeah, so that really disturbed me.
That's terrible.
When I found that out.
Well, if you think about it as well, like leading it back to like aviation as we talk about it, like I guess that's I didn't realize as well, like that's another big cost about flying, right? It's not just about the fuel.
Oh yeah,
all the little toiletries and the blankets and all the things that they have that they don't really reuse. They kind of just dump it at the end of the flight.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of flights.
It's a lot. Yeah. We don't need those goodie bags, even at events and things like that.
I'm a huge anti-goodie bag person and hamper person. Like in fact, most of the time when people give me something at an event, I'll be like, can I not take one?
Yeah.
I'll ask like, what's in the bag first? Like if it's more of your logos, I really don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a coaster, or another tote bag, or another, like everyone's like, oh, the tote bags are good. They're good for the environment. Like no, not when you have like 50 from like so many events.
Yeah. Well, so I guess transitioning into your music now, how has all of this has it played into your music in any way? I know Sun and Moon about the environment.
Yes,
really definitely was, right?
It was.
That was. You can check out that video as well. I think I was in it.
Yeah, you were.
A little cameo, and some other more popular, more known people also. You can see if you can spot.
Everybody.
It's
our split seconds here, but thank you for doing that for that rainy, hot afternoon.
How does that translate into your music? And is it going to be in the upcoming album as well in any form?
To me, I think
you explore different genres.
I think I'm exploring a variety of different things in terms of theme. The new album's actually called Childish. So it talks a lot about inner childhood trauma, big childlikeness that's important in our lives. So I think there will be some cross-section of sustainability. I do believe that sustainability needs to be introduced no matter what you do as a profession. And to me, as a songwriter, it might not be a theme this time around that I'm writing completely about. It was the last season, which was till the end of the world, No Man's Land. It pretty much was about the environment, and the single that came out, Sun and Moon, was also about it. But I think as a musician, it's definitely changed a variety of things. Like when I work on a production, I think I'm very conscious about consuming Even I tell my band and everybody, if we're using anything batteries, we need to switch to rechargeables. Even small things like that, all the way to like no plastic bottles when I go on stage. Like everyone in the band, please bring your own water bottle. I speak to the organizers if there were any shows. I don't want a bottle of water, but if you have a refill station somehow, I would prefer that, or even just a water point. And when in Singapore, tap water is fine by me. Just and just please don't bring any bottled waters or whatever it was. And
so that's in your rider as opposed to like
it completely
like
is
orange M&Ms, but Inch has like no plastic bottles.
Environmental like at least always environmental options. If there are towels, reusable, whatever it is. And even as an artist, sometimes a lot of musicians produce merchandise, and I have a huge problem producing merchandise. Like I said, I don't want to give you another tote bag you might or might not use, or or something that is so irrelevant, like another thumb drive or whatever it is. So whenever I do merchandise, they're all usually partner with a designer, and it's a one unique piece. A piece that I hope people would treasure, or something that would be beyond just anything. It would be a coffee table piece, or something that would have artistic value that you would keep. Hopefully for as long as you would live.
Like you also your brooches in your video, right? Like these cute little, are they called brooches? I guess it's but yeah, great, wonderful. And so tell us a little bit more about what we can expect in terms of timeline and how to look out for your album. Are you releasing single by single, or are you just dropping the whole thing?
Single by single, and the whole album drops in October.
After all the singles are dropped.
So the first one's coming out in June, and I'm really excited about this. It's been very fun working on the song, and it is also going to be bilingual, so we'll have the song both in English and Mandarin.
And the music video is what you're working on right now, right?
Yeah.
So that will also drop in June when the single comes out?
Yeah.
Together.
So we're just shooting everything right now, so it's been a lot of prep work and a lot of choreography to deal with right now at the moment. So I'm very stressed out about that.
Wow, okay.
My sister Chun is the choreographer, so my sister's a dancer as well.
Right.
And
nice.
Yeah, it was really nice to be able to. Yeah, we've been related for so long. It's the first time we're actually working together.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you were gonna do any collaborations on this album. So your sister.
My sister. I feel like every album's a collaboration.
Of course. I mean, not in terms of like. So we always think, oh, who's she collaborating with in terms of the prominent artist, right? But then there's everybody who's behind the scenes, who's doing it, director, your editor,
designers,
your lighting guy, sound person,
everyone. They're all. I feel like in many ways I do have some lead in a lot of it, but it's impossible. I have knowledge gaps. It's impossible for me to fill them all, and I can only be as creative as knowledgeable as I am. So they really help fill in the gaps for a lot of things and do a lot of recommendations, and it's really a family effort.
Cool. Just really quickly on the music scene, what's Nathan, just plugging Nathan, he's just dropped his new music video.
Yes, I'm fine.
And he did a lyric video, and he was like, if it gets enough views, I will do a music video. The current climate for musicians, I would imagine, is pretty tough, because I mean, you don't have album sales like before anymore, right? So it's all streaming, and you get revenue that way. It's significantly reduced, I would imagine. But then, I'm speaking from Neyman's point of view. What I understand is you go on concerts, and that's where you sell merchandise, and you do endorsements. That's where financially it's stable. So would music videos at this time now be sort of like almost like a gift? It felt like, for Nathan at least, it's like, oh, I'm gonna, if there are these many watches and views, I will do a music video. It's almost like as if it was a gift in a sense. I mean, can you share more a little bit about this?
I think each artist is different.
Sure.
But I do feel like in general, just being able to do what we do is a bit of a gift. And it also is work, a lot of work, and work that is very disproportionate to its outcome.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's not like I'm a chicken rice seller. If I know I bought X amount of chickens and I'm gonna like have X amount and sell X amount of plates, I would yield X amount of money.
Right.
It's never that way because one, you are monetizing something so personal to begin with, so you can't really put a value on what you're putting out. That's one. But then somehow you have to.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's this whole weird world how people evaluate music these days.
True, very differently.
Very different. It's no longer about the amount of CDs you sell, but the amount of streams that you have. But at the same time, if you were to really peg a value, an artist walks away with 0.032% of the royalty of the plays, which isn't much. And are you really going to value something so priceless emotionally to that financially?
Yeah.
It would be very painful if you were an artist to do that.
Right.
And then at the same time, you know, like you go out and the same artist can tour in the show. The same artist can have like many followings. But then how is your following a very dedicated one willing to pat a big amount of money or to watch you go out?
Right.
Is your demographic if you're a very introverted artist and your audience is very introverted, would they want to go out to watch your show?
It's really, there's so many...
It's so many things.
It's, like
it's so relative. So it is very, to me, it's about music is an art, and I think if you're an artist out there and you're doing what you do, you are only as much as you value yourself. And that value could be monetary if you decide to peg it that way, or something beyond that.
Right.
I generally assume my needs as a person, like, you know, paying my own bills, being able to do what I need to do in life, and I'm golden. Yeah. And I'm very grateful to have been able to figure out a way to do that with what I do. And then everything else when it comes to music or whatever it is, it's just I'm just going to do whatever I want, and I'm not going to try to peg it to anything anymore.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, I'm so inspired. I sing and everything. I do want to get back into that, but like the playing field, so to speak, is so big, and you're saying so you really
it's
have
so
to
different.
Position yourself, and
then
you
there
need
are
to know what you
people
want
who
to do.
have to run it a different way as well, like people who are on Patreon.
Exactly. So you don't release the songs on Spotify per se, but you do pay a membership. So it's a different way.
Completely different system to support yourself, and as well. It's to me about creating opportunities on how you would allow your audience to value you. So at least for Patreon or whatever it is, like they know that, I love you as an artist, and the only way I want to do that is to just maybe support you just by subscribing to you.
Right.
And this very minimal subscription, I hope that it goes some way to you.
Right.
You know, and I think that's a very great empowered way. Independent power way to work with an art, like to contribute to an artist.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think a lot of fans or supporters are wising up in some aspect. I mean, they know to not click off the ad, or they know that, you know, where how they can validate
how the
work.
metrics work.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of this out there, and I mean, so the more educated ones would know, the ones who don't. So you will always have a spectrum of people with very different understanding of everything.
Of course.
And to me, as an artist, if you're just aware on how, one, be able to value yourself, and two, how do you create opportunities for your audience to value you in a way that will be helpful for you, or not at all, just let them do whatever they want as well, you know?
Yeah. Some great marketing tips to think about if you're going to music business, and then with that, we're now into entertainment. So we've done technology a little bit, entertainment. Before we talk about MasterChef, to wrap things up, just looking at your Instagram, it seems you lead such a colorful life, and you've been up to some cool things to do in Singapore, like there are two things I want to talk about: roller skating and making a kimono. Yeah. I've actually recently seen my friend roller skate, another friend of mine as well, and I was just thinking, I should do that. I mean, I was born way back, and I used to roller skate actually, so I actually know how to roller skate. And I'm wondering, with the kids these days, a lot of them are going back to the old sort of 80s sort of feel. And
there's this retrograde thing happening.
Yeah, absolutely. With the music they listen to, the things they wear, and so are people just learning to? Are they all young people, or?
Well, when I was there, I think I was probably the oldest one.
Really?
And everybody's fashion sense kind of threw back to the 70s. I mean, now it's funny because whenever I know it's Gen Z when they're dressing like they're from the 70s or the 80s, Like, right. I'm like, there is no way Like, I was dressing like that for a while, and I was just okay, but now it's like, okay, now these young people are really getting back into it, which is nice. It's
crazy, yeah.
I dig it. I think that it's a great time, and I love the fashion sense, all of it.
Right.
So, and they're all learning the moves, and they're all like trying to do dances and stuff.
And the music is also retro, right?
The music's new.
Oh, interesting.
But the thing is that a lot of the new music is retrograding.
True.
So it's just like a I guess a post reaction to whatever new music it is. There's another movement altogether. Yeah.
Right. And something else fun you did was also make that kimono at Funan Center. I just love how it's set up. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, there's nothing to do there, but I just love the aesthetics and the way everything is different, right? Like, how do you even describe it if you've been to Funan Center? They've got these it's very open concept.
There's a bike store. I mean, I think they're really smart by curating their tenants. And so you have like your Brompton, which you had Brompton itself, like a really interesting community. So just being able to visit the shop there, they allow you to bike into the mall in a specific way. There's parking down there for bicycle enthusiasts too. So they are building a culture that's interesting. There's also the whole tech floor that happens. There's a whole fashion floor, so you have a lot of the local designers, like you love Benito, you have Beyond the Vine,
shirt bars that also local,
yeah, exactly. So many local brands that are there, and then you also have where Bernina, who's quite of a luxury sewing machine company, they are selling their sewing machines there, but they're creating a lot of workshops there for people to use. And in fact, you can rent the machines there by the hour. So if you don't have a sewing machine at home, you can bring your project there and do it there.
Another way to be environmentally friendly.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I think it's pretty affordable if you're deciding to use the Rolls Royce of all like sewing machines, and that really makes your life a lot easy. So like it was really fun to just go there and like, okay, I guess I'll learn how to make a kimono.
Right.
I was pretty happy with it.
Would you say the older generation? I mean, for me, like, I would say I'm the older generation. I would feel a little conscious being watched, but I guess that's the whole thing now, right?
I don't enjoy being watched either by any means, but people get super curious. They've been like, oh, what you making? What you making?
Oh, they come by and talk to you?
Oh, they always come by. And then they expect you, just don't wear black when you're there. They expect you to be a staff or something like that. If you're wearing all black.
Okay. Well, if they talk to you, aren't they eating into your time? I mean, you do have
a little bit,
right?
But I guess
it's the whole.
They're curious and they want to know what you're making, and you just tell them, oh, I'm doing a class right now. They're like, oh, okay, and then like, who do I speak to? And you just direct them to somebody.
Right.
And some of them just want to sit there and watch you, and you've been like, do you mind?
Right. Interesting. It's a little intimidating for me. I know on the upper floor there was one store that has like microphones and TVs, and it's just so empty, and it's just like microphones and TV, and I'm just like, what is this store about? I didn't even dare ask or walk in. Have you seen it?
I think it is. It is Popsicle.
Yeah, Popsicle. What is that?
It's a karaoke system that's in your phone. So you buy it's a Popsicle, it's like so they're a company that's quite amazing. They acquired the rights for a lot of songs.
Okay.
So it is like a tiny little sort of like an Apple TV device that you have, and you put on your TV and you plug it in. If every one of your friends just download the app, they can cue the songs from their phone.
Oh, and then everybody takes the turns
and they sing. So
it's so hip, and well, hip apparently is not even a word anymore.
Is it not?
I said it to my friend who's like 20 something. He's like, hip? Who says hip? And I'm just like, wow, okay.
Oh no.
Cool is the evergreen term. So yeah.
Cool is the evergreen term,
I
guess. Don't say hip.
No.
At one point in time, I think my uncle was saying, oh yeah, that's happening, and I was like, oh no, who says happening?
Yeah, so hip is happening now.
Yeah.
All right, and so to wrap things up, this is still ongoing. I know this was filmed some time back, but Inch is so involved in everything. She was on MasterChef. You're still in the opening credits.
I still am.
You're the last person there, and you've got this very sexy. Torching.
I was flambeing a crab.
A crab. So tell us, what was the experience like on the reality show? Is it as real as they depicted it?
It is super real. This is the first time I've ever been part of a reality TV show, so that's exciting in itself. Like, not in that format, and I'm glad that it's not some random reality TV show where I'm trying to get a man or or something like that. do some random, but it's just purely cooking based on one skill set, right? So it was like I was like very excited about that.
Right, and you do. I see some amazing cooking. I took a picture. I didn't upload it, but there was this thing you just made recently, the crispy one with the little the fish roll, or what was it?
Oh, that's right.
I
call it sting dang tong.
All right, okay.
It's made out of stingray, bandang fish, and sotong, and it's an ota floss that's rested on a rice cracker bed and topped with a kaffir lime aioli and seashore leaves as well as ikura.
So delicious. How did you audition? I mean, like, you must be of a certain level to even get in the show, right? Did they have auditions? Can you talk about this?
I can't talk about it. They had auditions, and they also had like a few like cook tests, and then before that, right before, and I guess because you send in your information, and we're talking about the whole process was during a pandemic. So a lot of people sending a lot of their videos from home, and then you get shortlisted, and then you get staggered for a few hours in a place to cook and stuff like that. So I mean, there's only so much a resume can share with them what you're like because you got to send in your top dishes and whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like your paper resume needs to reflect on how well you actually cooked.
Right.
So I guess like the first test cook was like a real test.
Ah, okay.
And all the cameras are on you as well, because you could be a great cook, but this is a TV show.
Exactly,
at the end of the day.
It's going to be so different.
You've got to somehow have some level of charisma to the camera. You can't just be a good cook, and you can't be someone where the camera comes to you and you just go like ignore it.
Yeah.
Like if they ask you questions and you're in your own world, so I think it's the whole audition process really is to be able to create. To really find the best cooks.
Right, for TV.
And for TV, yeah.
Right, wow, yeah, I imagine I couldn't do it because there's so much pressure. I need to be in my own zone. And would you say I mean, I was on Singapore Idol. I would say what was depicted was really a little bit different from what was actually happening. I don't know if it's the same for you. Maybe it's changed now, but but yeah, even as a singer, the process of Singapore Idol, for example, the rehearsal process, like we didn't rehearse with the monitors, and there and then the lyrics were given to us like the night before, and so it was like completely out of sync from what I would normally do. So I like as a cook, were there many very different elements that were like, was it very different, or it was quite comfortable for you?
There were many different elements, but it was expected. Right. I mean, when they say you have 40 minutes to cook, you only have 40 minutes to cook. If they tell you they're very strict about the ingredients you bring. If you want to try add any ingredients, they'll say no to you.
Right.
When we got there, I have no idea where the pantry is.
Right.
I have no idea what's in the pantry. I have no idea where the kitchen tools are.
Yeah.
And all of this goes into your time to cook too. So I think that was the part that I struggled the most for, because most of the time I'm languorously in my own kitchen.
Of course, yeah.
And I know where everything is.
Yeah.
I know how much eggs I have in the fridge, you know? Exactly. So but here I am going like, I hope they have this, I hope they have that, I hope I can find it. And then in my panic, I usually miss everything. Like I'm like, ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? And I love that they really challenge you, because they put a lot of foreign ingredients in there and they won't put any translation. So you have to really know your ingredients to be able to pick out what they are. Wow. So they might even give you like a few flours, and they're all like Japanese flours, and you have a 0 word of English there, and you just gotta figure out what flours are what.
It's kind of unforgiving in that way. I mean,
super
like if you put
unforgiving.
in the wrong flour, I think that's it.
I get it, because
that's part of adaptability, being a master chef, I guess.
Exactly. Like you need to be adaptable, and at the same time, you're a chef. You should know the ingredients by now. Yeah. You should be familiar with what are the available ingredients out there as well. So I think it's to me, this is my general attitude. Challenge accepted. Yeah. Whatever it is, bring it. Okay, I'm gonna fail gloriously, so be it. You know, I will go down in flames. It's fine by me, but like bring it. You know.
Great. It's a good attitude to wrap up this episode. Yep, just be gung ho, just do it like Chua. Was there anything else you want to add? Oh, there's a bit of homework for you if you have time. I think one of the best gifts and very environmentally friendly that I ask from my guests is to curate a Spotify playlist. So please put some of your music into it.
It's my pastime making playlists.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think it's such a wonderful idea, a wonderful way to get to know someone. So if you could do that, and
absolutely,
we will drop your Instagram link, I don't know, TikTok or...
Because I already have a playlist now that I change up every week or every other week.
Oh, wow.
So I would just update that one.
Great.
And then, there are like 400 people following it. So I can definitely let's just put this there. It's not a lot, but I'm glad that there are people following a playlist.
Yeah.
I think over the years, and in fact on Valentine's Day, what I did was I opened it up for collaboration, and I told everyone to put in their favorite love songs.
Oh, nice.
And I think we had 500 hours of music
at
the end of it.
Everyone is like, where's your mode of how do you communicate to your supporters, and how would someone communicate?
If you'd like to follow me and engage with me, Instagram is great.
Works.
This is Inch, and Twitter as well. This is Inch.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. This has been a really great episode, a great conversation. Please share it with your friends, especially if you feel they need to hear more about the environment, and this is a good way to be introduced to it if you felt it was a good introduction for you too. All right, thank you, Inch.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Bye.
Bye.